And one of the reasons why a lot of Christian men are very alienated is because they understand that their pastor is probably a gump who's not on their team. And then they understand that if they're not going to church or they're not doing what all the other normies are doing who are Christians, then they feel like a bad person. They feel like they don't belong anywhere. So then they feel really isolated. Don't feel isolated. You have a community right here on this show. Because that's where I'm at right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sheep Get Sheared podcast. I'm your host, Austin Creed. My friends, today we're going to revisit single mothers. The reason we're going to revisit single mothers is because, in my humble opinion, this is just one man's opinion. Maybe this is shared by you, but in one man's opinion, single mothers are ruining the church. Now, we need to get one thing straight. Number one, I will not include on this list women who are widows, because in my opinion, that's not entirely their fault, okay? As someone who's ex-military, I have a lot of sympathy for women and for men, widowers, who have their spouse die, whether it's they're a cop, they're in the military, or whatever. I have sympathy for those people, okay? So I wouldn't include them on this list. But when I talk about single mothers, I'm not talking about co-parents, but they have their own. I love it. We'll get into this in a minute with the clips we have. But there are women who will divorce their husbands and then they'll say they're a single mother. No, you're not a single mother. You are a co-parent. But again, this is one of the reasons why I think single mothers are ruining the church, because the church in general, the Christian church, whether it be Catholic, Protestant, evangelical, whatever, the church in general is supposed to be a charitable organization. It's supposed to be a safe place for people to go to learn about scriptures, to find a community, to feel safe. And in doing so, they end up kind of being parasitic to the congregation and to the pastor's flock. So when we talk about single mothers, the reason a lot of times they poison the church is, number one, we have to get one thing straight. First thing is, usually when single mothers hop into the conversation, they want to immediately blame the man. Now, could the man be at fault? Maybe. Statistically, it's not likely, okay? And even if the man is at fault, she still chose that man, by the way. I love it. Does anybody else have this experience where a woman will be like, oh, my ex, whether it was ex-boyfriend, ex-husband, ex-baby daddy, whatever, he was an abuser, he was bad, he was hurtful, he did this, he did that, and you're like, okay, well then why did you stay with him for 2 years, for 10 years? Why were you there? Why did you procreate with this man? See, nobody wants to take that accountability. They want to, gentlemen, I'm going to put you up on some game real quick. Ladies, if you're here, I'm sorry, but I got to put the guys on game. Have you ever are told by a girl that you're seeing, you're talking to, you're in a relationship with, or whatever, and she says that she was in an abusive relationship beforehand, you need to stop the conversation and you need to say, okay, who was the abuser? Because I know, immediately, when you hear that, you assume it was the guy. But we've discussed this on the show before. When we look at statistics in relationships, both hetero, homo, and pan and everything else, we have a large discrepancy between the homosexual men, heterosexual couples, and then homosexual women. And when you look at the statistics of interpersonal domestic violence, so the lesbians have the highest rate of abuse. Gay men have the least. So when you get into this conversation of who's the abuser, who was hurt, who wasn't, do not fall for this, that it was the man's fault. Could it have been? It's possible. It's not impossible. But don't automatically assume that, because the data says otherwise. And oh, and by the way, in case you think I pulled that data from some right-wing site, no, it's from the CDC. From the CDC. You don't believe me? If you don't believe me, I will tag it right here, right up here on your screen right now, the video where I covered that. But my friends, look, when we talk about this idea of single mothers ruining the church, it's not because the church is, it's because the church is doing the right thing that the people are being used. When we look back in the literature of the early church, women were single mothers or parent, or fathers were single fathers because of circumstances that were outside their control more often than not. Usually it was because there was a catastrophe, there was a tragedy, there was something going on. Versus now, everything, almost without exception, that's why I excluded the widows and the widowers, is self-inflicted. They're the one who praying mantised. They're the one who bounced. They're the ones who weren't happy, and now they're making it everybody else's fault. They're making it the government's fault. They're making it the church's responsibility. They're making it another man, step dummies, responsibility. You call them step daddies, I call them step dummies. Not because they're bad men, because they're being exploited, and for that reason, they're not smart, in my opinion. Doesn't make them bad people, just makes them not the best. And again, I'm excluding the widowers and the widows because it's a totally separate category. If you're a widow or a widower and you get remarried, different story. I still wouldn't advocate for it. But to me, it's not as bad as when that baby daddy or the ex-husband or whoever is still in the picture and you're cutting in on that guy's family time. To me, messed up. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to go explore. Here, we're going to watch some videos. And please let me know what you think. If you have personal experience with this, I urge you to comment in the comment section. I urge you to have your voice be heard. Because number one, you're not alone. Number two, I want you to inform these single men who are like myself, who maybe they know this, maybe they suspect it, but maybe they're more purple pill, quote unquote. I don't keep track of all the pill colors and what they mean. I don't care about that garbage. Me, I care about the truth. And so when there are men who are trying to trust but verify type strategy, they want to have the truth, but they also don't like it, so they want to try to find a way to get around it. I want you to tell these men what your life is, how it got to that point, and what you would do differently. Please inform these men. But anyways, we'll show you this right out the gate. To me, this symbolizes a lot of the church today. Let's watch this video.
So you're this. Yeah. But you're also this. Yeah. And you're this. Yeah. How does anybody date you? It's hard.
Let's go back to the beginning. Watch. If you're not watching the screen, I'll narrate it for you.
So you're this.
So she says on one side you're a single mother.
Yeah. But you're also this.
On the other side, it says you're a Christian with traditional ideals.
Yeah. And you're this.
And in the middle, it says won't settle for less than a provider man who loves Jesus. See how all those things don't really match up very well? You see how they might be, I don't know, polar opposites to each other? Okay, first of all, gentlemen, we need to get something straight. Ladies, I'm sorry. I gotta put men up on game here because most media outlets, most commentators, most social observers, most friends, family members, they won't tell the men the real on this topic. So I'll do it. I'll take the heat. I'll take the persecution because this needs to be told. Gentlemen, I understand that especially in the church environment, you're supposed to forgive and forget. There's this idea of forgiving and forgetting. No, there is forgiveness as in God forgives people. There is forgiveness as in if they've wronged you directly, you have the choice to forgive them. But never forget what people do. Never forget what they say. And always watch what they do over what they say. Because you could say anything you want, but your actions are what define you. So when we go to this woman right here doing a skit about how there are single mothers who are quote-unquote Christians with traditional ideals, we already know that's garbage and BS. We know it's a crock of garbage. You can't have it both ways. You can't say you're a single mother and say you're a traditional Christian. That's not possible. It doesn't work that way. Traditional says you are either a married woman or you're a nun. You're not a skeezer in the streets who let some dude ski and then decided to keep the kid and now you want to be traditional. No. Where was the tradition when you were in your prime? Where was the tradition before it became a necessity? See, now it's a necessity. Now someone else is depending on you. A human being is now depending on you. Of course now you want tradition. Of course now you want a man to come in there and provide for you. Notice at the bottom here, it says, want a provider man, not a not an attractive man, not a husband. She wants a hubby, not a husband. You see the difference there? I'll repeat that in case you missed it. They want a hubby, not a husband. Hubby is like a roommate who's cute and like a friend or a pocketbook with short hair. A husband is a leader. A husband is somebody who has authority, dominion, and who she submits to. Hubby is a partner. Okay? That's why I don't like the term partner. Partner implies we are equal, have equal say. No, I am in charge of my life. And so if you want to come into my life, you're now under my jurisdiction. Now, if you don't want that, go ahead, walk away. You don't need to be here. But this is the way it's going to work. And a lot of men, they don't have the guts to say what I just said. And I don't understand why men don't have the guts to say, hey, guess what? My way or the highway, take it or leave it. A lot of people, they don't have the guts to be disliked. You know what? Let's pause the show for 2 seconds. I want to read y'all what I wrote. I went out to lunch today. And I was sitting at the restaurant bar because I was alone. I like to eat alone, by the way. If you don't do things alone, which is going to tie into my list of stuff I wrote down here, I don't understand why a lot of men have this fear of being alone. First of all, if you are a parent, I'm not a parent, but this will be something I will teach my kids one day. You need to learn to be okay with being alone a lot because you're going to be alone a lot in your life. Even if you have great friends like I do. You're not going to be around them every second of every day and in every way. You're going to be alone. And so if you can't handle being alone in silence, then you're going to have a very rough time. But I wanted to write this. I said, why men, especially young men, are losing in life. Here are the things I wrote down. I have 8 things. Number 1, too much focusing on fornication. Okay? So when we get to this video, like right here, talking about the whole single mother idea and what's going on with single mothers in church, one of the reasons why men are not getting to where they need to be faster is because of behavior like this. They're obsessed with the id and the ego, and they're not focusing on what they need to actually be doing. They're not focusing on what matters. They're not focusing on things that will get them ahead in this life. Okay? Number 2 thing I wrote down. They're not willing to take advantage of compound interest. Financially, personally, and professionally. In other words, you're not setting yourself up. For example, when it comes to creating content like I love to do on this show every day, I might be getting next to no views right now. But 5 years from now, I can still make money off of a video I made 5 years ago. That is compound interest. Putting in money into even if it's like a Robinhood or Acorn account or whatever. And I'm not sponsored by them. I just bring them up because they're the first ones that came into my head. You could be taking advantage of compound interest. Just look at a compound interest calculator from when you start at 20 versus when you start at like 40, and you'll see a gigantic difference with a little smaller amount goes farther. Number 3 thing I wrote down, not willing to think for themselves, even if it means questioning people that they like or things they want to believe are true. So let's go to this next video. I'll keep to more of my list as the show goes on. But let's go to this video where it says, finding peace in Christ as a single mom. On the screen here, it says, I was divorced 2 years ago and became a single mother. First of all, if you're divorced, you're not a single mother, you are a co-parent, which we already discussed on the show. You are a co-parent. You are not a single mother. If your ex-husband is paying child support, you are not a single mother. If your ex-husband has visitation, you are not a single mother. If your ex-husband is involved in your kid's life, you are not a single mother, you are a co-parent. Let's see what this video has to say.
I was divorced 2 years ago, and becoming a single mom was really, really difficult in a lot of ways.
Well, you signed up for it.
I don't think people realize how lonely it feels, juggling everything.
But you signed up for that. I mean, correct me if I'm mistaken. You signed up for that. The divorce was physically filed by you, and so now you signed up for that burden. This is why I excluded widows and widowers from the conversation, because for them, it's a entirely different situation. But if you divorce, which statistically, even the normies are admitting now that the divorce rate is about The divorces are 70 to 80% filed by the women in the relationship. So, statistically speaking, if you were divorced, it was filed by you, which means you signed up for this.
You definitely feel different in public, I think, especially whether it's school events or just walking around the grocery store.
Notice the sad music in the background. Gentlemen, I don't feel sorry for these people, and I'll tell you one reason why. Number one, they signed up for this. Again, I'll say this one more time. That's why I excluded the widows from the conversation, because they might have known the risk, but it wasn't a guarantee. Secondly, ma'am, you volunteered for this, and so I don't feel sorry for you. Number two, what did you expect to happen? You expected that your life would be great now that the father's out of the picture? So, like, third of all, think about the kids for a second. I look at this video. You have 2 boys from the looks of it. And, ma'am, statistically speaking, especially sons of single mothers either end up in prison or on drugs. And daughters of single mothers end up on the pole or in jail or on drugs. Look, I don't like to say this stuff, but it's the truth. If you don't believe me, please go look up the data for yourself. I've shown these stats on this show before. I'm not making this up. Let's continue.
Or at church, you feel different, and it's a very lonely feeling. You don't feel like you're enough. You think, I've failed my kids.
Yeah, because statistically you have. Again, I'm not going to be mean for no reason, but I'm also not going to say, hey, no, it's okay. No, it's not okay. No, it's not, because statistically speaking, you broke up the marriage, you walked away, and now you want to cry about it as if it's not your fault? That's like me becoming addicted to a substance and then blaming the substance company for inventing it instead of me for taking it. It's stupid.
I have failed my parents, my family. Maybe I've even failed God.
Of course, God now enters the conversation. Why is God only used as like a way of like, oh, God has a plan, so therefore anything I do doesn't really matter because God's got a plan type of... see, this is the problem why I say that women are... single mothers are ruining churches because of stuff like this. Then they all want to say, oh, poor princess warrior woman, we'll help you, we'll protect you, we'll shield you from that evil man. When statistically speaking, she divorced him.
Oh, hell no!
Because she was bored or unhappy. Or the sex wasn't good or whatever. I'm telling you how it is. If you don't like it, turn the show off.
And it's just sort of a dark space that you're in and you're walking through. It kind of just keeps going on and on.
Okay, I can't take this. I'm getting nauseous listening to this. I just ate. I'm getting nauseous listening to this right now. You expect me to feel bad for you when you signed up for this? You have yet to say that he filed divorce from you. I would have thought you would have brought that up if it was the truth, which means that you filed the divorce, most likely. And so you signed up for this experience that you're now complaining about. See, gentlemen, you can't please people like this. I'm not saying women, I'm saying people like this woman, you can't please them. They are unpleasable. They wanted to be married. They weren't happy in the marriage. Now they're not happy without the marriage. They wanted kids because they were unhappy without kids. Now they have kids and they're still unhappy. You can't make these people happy, man. Well, stop trying to make these people happy. You'll waste your life trying to make these people happy. They won't be happy no matter what they have or don't have.
I wonder, like, when is the light going to break through? I remember a specific day. I was taking a friend to the airport and it was raining and I was already feeling really scared about my future and nervous about what's to come. And I turned a corner and there was this beautiful rainbow in the sky. It was so vibrant and it was just so beautiful. And as I looked at it, I remember feeling just really calm and very peaceful. And in those moments, sort of recognizing that peace. So,
what in the world does this have to do with God? Gentlemen, these people are bird brains. They have no idea what they want in their life. They have no idea how their actions have consequences and how they affect other people like you. And they are ruled by their emotions, and then they make it your problem. See, this is why I talk about being a biblical bachelor. Not to plug my book, which is fantastic, but to say, look, gentlemen, there are alternatives to dealing with people like this. If you think that you just have to deal with people like this, you don't. And one of the reasons why a lot of Christian men are very alienated is because they understand that their pastor is probably a gump who's not on their team. And then they understand that if they're not going to church or they're not doing what all the other normies are doing who are Christians, then they feel like a bad person. They feel like they don't belong anywhere. So then they feel really isolated. Don't feel isolated. You have a community right here on this show. Because that's where I'm at right now. You think that I get along with a lot of people in a church today? No. Why? Because I say it the way it is. I have what's called the blunt gene. I call things out the way they actually are. I don't put a candy coated cover over my message. I don't do it. Why? Because I don't like candy. It's bad for you. Ruins your teeth, bad for your skin, and yet people love it, whether it's in their food or in their thoughts. And I'm sick of it. When we watch videos like this, if she had said, hey, she didn't even I haven't even heard the abuse excuse yet. Maybe it's there. Maybe it comes up later. We're halfway through this video. I have a serious migraine. And this whole video is meant to garner sympathy from you as a man. And I'm supposed to sit here and feel sorry for something that somebody self-inflicted on themselves? It's ridiculous. It's stupid. But of course, if you don't sit there and you're not like, oh my goodness, that's so horrible. Oh, I want to help. Oh, please let me help. Then you're a bad person, apparently. Fine, I'll be a bad person. I don't care. Well, I'm going to stick myself with a label that you gave me, Mr. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and I'm a gump, and I got to listen to you? Hell no. Speaking of gumps, let's see if this guy breaks the mold or if he sticks with the status quo.
God says what you have is what you need. And God wanted to say that to a single mom today, that what you have is what you need. That He put enough in you to raise that child. He foresaw that you would be in the situation, and He compensated for what others didn't give you by putting a resolve and a grit and a determination in you that's more than enough.
Oh, Mr. Chad Pastor now wants to pass the buck to you, the man. How typical can you get?
I love the poorly educated.
So typical, man. So typical. See, here's the problem right here. It's these kind of men who do the most damage to other men. Because they'd have you believe you are the bad person. Not because your logic is faulty. Not because your message is mistaken. But because of the way you make other people feel, that makes you wrong. See, I don't buy that rubbish. To me, that is a disgrace. I don't buy that for 2 seconds. I think it's disgusting.
You are a rude, terrible person.
And I don't put up with it. And I don't think you should put up with it either. So when we get into this conversation of single mothers ruining the church, because guys like that allow people to get away with this type of behavior. Now, it's one thing if she says, hey, I'm the problem, I made the mistake, and I'm willing to atone for that. But I have yet to hear a single person say anything remotely like that. It's always someone else's fault, always other person's fault, and then suddenly God becomes the focal point when all of a sudden you now are in a need position. When you need something, suddenly God becomes important. But when you were living your hot girl summer before your kid was born, where was God then? There was no, I care about God then. But as soon as you're a single mother with Pookie's spawn on your arm, all of a sudden now it's God's here, God's going to help me, God's going to give me my dream husband with a helicopter and a Bugatti. No, he's not. Sorry. Because any guy like that, he's not going to do that. He'd be the biggest dummy on the planet to sign up for that. But you see, that's a lot of the reasons why men are leaving the church are because they're sick and tired of being treated like they are a disease. Like if they have any kind of spine on their back, they are a bad person. And to me, it makes me sick.
Screw you, hippie!
And I'm not going to deal with it, and I don't think you should deal with it either. We need to hold people accountable. If there are men who mess up, that's what we're supposed to hold them accountable. When women mess up, they should be held accountable. People are defined by their actions. And so your actions dictate who you are and who you will become. And I don't understand why we get in this conversation of feelings. No, feelings are not the most important part of this conversation. It is the facts. The fact of the matter is, single mothers are ruining churches because they're trying to replace their baby daddy with God. They're trying to say God will raise my kid. I don't need my ex-husband. I don't need my child's father. I need his money, but I don't need him as a parent. I need God. I need the church community. They use the church as a substitute for their ex-spouse, as a substitute for their sperm donor. They use that as an excuse, and I'm sick of it. We need to call this out for what it is. My friends, I encourage you again, I know I said this earlier, but I encourage you, if you are in this situation, you've gone through the situation, to share your story with other men who have gone through it, and with single guys like myself. We need to hear these things. We need you to share your story so that we can hopefully learn lessons, and we can, or maybe it can serve as a little therapeutic for you as well. But with anything, I want this community to be something that's a safe space for men to air out their grievances, to air out what's been affecting them that their friends won't listen to, their family won't listen to, and the only person that will listen to is either their therapist or their lawyer, both of which they're paying top dollar for. You don't gotta pay me. I mean, you could donate to the show if you want, buy my book if you want, but you don't have to. Comment section's free. And I would love to hear your story, and I know it would help a lot of men's lives, and maybe even your own. My friends, if you want to contribute, I welcome it. If you like the video, you know what to do. I look forward to hearing from you. Think for yourself. Take care of yourselves. I'm out.